Hey guys, NJ here. I hope you're all well. I hope you're safe and your families are well. Things have been a little bit stagnant on the channel, obviously because of the current world affairs and because we're only now sort of really getting back into the drone season, and also because there's been nothing coming out of China. I've been sent nothing for absolutely ages. That is what it is. But there are other things that we can cover under the tech bubble. Today's might seem a little bit random, but I wanted to talk to you about flashlights, and it is something that's relevant to us. We'll go on to that. But I have a pretty decent collection of flashlights, and it kind of snuck up on me, but over the last year I guess I've become what's known in the circle as a flashaholic. But to keep this somewhat relevant to my current subscriber base, let's have a quick show of hands. How many of you have been back out into the darkness because you may or may not have crashed your quadcopter into a tree or area during your flying session earlier in the day, and you know it's out there and you are here and you can't sleep because of it? Certainly me on several occasions, and I know from speaking to a few of you that I'm not the only one. So when you go out and do that, have you fumbled in a drawer to just grab a torch that you've probably had kicking around for years, or are you just hoping that the light on the back of your phone might help you out? Well, hopefully in today's video I'll be showing you why it's well worth picking up one of these incredible little powerful and super utilitarian little flashlights, and taking one of these out with you to make your life considerably easier. So I've picked about 6 or 7 of my favourites here. I've bought a lot over the years. Some of them are rubbish, some of them are super expensive. These are the few that I think are worth your time, worth looking at. They're decently priced and incredibly functional. We're going to look on the bench quickly now at all those different models, a few of the functions they do, and then we're going to go out into the pitch black. I'm out in the countryside here, so it really is very dark when it is dark, and show you some of those beam profiles and how they work and how they look, and hopefully by the end of it you'll realise this is something you should really have in your flight bag. So let's go down to the bench. Okay, so I've actually brought it down to 8. I know I said 7 initially, but it's actually 8 that we're going to look at today. Now, in terms of what these are from left to right, we'll just quickly go through the names. So this is by Rovyron, this slightly strange looking opaque light here. Rovyron are a fairly new company, incredible tech. We'll talk more about all these individually, but the Rovyron Aurora A5X, this is a new edition of this light. That's that guy here. Over to this side we've got a standard, very cheap light from Halfords. This is a Ring Micro, I think it's called. Next to that we've got Olight, been around for a long time, do really premium flashlights. This is their S1R Baton 2 light. Next to that, also by Olight, is their I1R EOS keychain light. Another fairly new, well, they've been around for a while, but considered one of the newer companies, Lumintop. This is the GT Mini, this one with the enormous head on it, and again we'll talk about why that's got a huge head and what the difference is. Again by Lumintop, we have the quite new EDC 18 light. Next to that, this is a company called NEBO, and this is called the Little Larry work light. And then off to the right, finally, the M2R Warrior, also by Olight. You can probably tell I'm a bit of a fan of Olight. Very, very nice premium flashlight company. So before we go into this, I'm just going to throw in a couple of orders here because you've probably made assumptions by looking at them. Let's have a look at the order of price. Now, if we look at the price, the cheapest here is actually going to be the Halfords one. I already gave away. It was a fairly cheapy job, and it is. That goes right all the way over to the left here. The next one in terms of price will be this guy by Olight, so we're going to put that guy there. Next to that is going to go the NEBO. I think these actually fluctuate around each other, so these two are, I think currently it's this way round, but these two are very closely priced, so we'll stick those two there. Next to that is now going to, and again I'm going on current prices, next to that is actually going to be, let me see, I think it is going to be the Rovyron. So that guy goes there. You'll be quite surprised to see this one sitting further up. Next to that is going to be the EDC 18. Then to the right of that we're going to have the S1R Baton 2. Then next to that we're going to have the GT Mini. and then finally all the way to the right, the very expensive and very premium M2R Warrior. So that's the rough price order of these guys. Again, these two can interchange. When I bought these, this was cheaper than that, but the prices are all messed up at the minute, obviously due to the aforementioned world issues. So in terms of brightness, have you guessed an order for which ones are brighter than which? Okay, let's do the brightness order. So again, down on the left, 110 lumens max, we have the Ring Micro. Next to that will also sit this one. So this is the little Olight EOS. That is 150 lumens. So brighter than this one, which looks a lot bigger. Obviously, as I was saying, this is where the tech's been moving forward a hell of a lot. 150 lumens from something this tiny is absolutely crazy. And we'll see all of this in the beam shots after we've done this section. Next on the list will be indeed the NEBO, which is 250 lumens. Next to that in this order will be this guy. So it's actually following price order fairly well. This guy, believe it or not, packs 650 lumens from this tiny Rovyron A5X. Absolutely amazing, this light. But it is it's pricey, but I think it's fantastic, as you'll see later. Now we'll have to swap these two round. Next will be this tiny little, you'll hear me use the term EDC, which stands for, in the flashaholic world, that stands for everyday carry, just because it's so small. And kind of the biggest we get to in terms of everyday carry is this kind of size. If I actually pick that up, you can see it still disappears in the hand. It's a nice size. This is kind of the biggest everyday carries that you get. It's sort of everything from that size and under. And as you can see, some of the ends of these are magnetic, which is why they're attracting to each other. So yeah, the Baton 2 goes here, being the next in brightness. So that's 1000 lumens in output. The next one is going to be this guy, the GT Mini. This has 1200 lumens of output. So yeah, that's where that one goes. Next to that, believe it or not, is actually going to be the M2R Warrior. That's 1500 lumens of output. And then finally here, all the way to the right in terms of output, is this EDC 18, which gives you a maximum 2800 lumens of output. Now, in terms of lumen output, it doesn't scale the way you think it would. It's a very non-linear scale. So this doesn't mean that nearly 3000 lumens of output, it's 3 times as bright as the 1000 lumen output of the S1R Baton 2. It doesn't work like that. It's one of those things where it's the same the way sound scales. It doesn't scale in a linear way. You've got exactly the same thing going on here, but you certainly notice that extra power. There's no getting around that. You're packing more lumens, it is going to get brighter, but just not in the way that you might initially think that it does. This one, the only downside of this, it doesn't have a charging circuit in it, which is a little bit of a shame, but I mean, when you're compacting everything into something this small, I'm not really surprised. The GT Mini doesn't either. One thing I'll also link in the description is this guy. This is a little product by Olight, and because I have so many 18650s around, I absolutely love this thing. You basically, it magnetically attaches to each side of the battery. Doesn't matter which way around it goes, it susses out the polarity, and then you plug that into USB. This will light up red and then go green when it's done, and it charges pretty quickly. So yeah, that's a super useful thing to have around if you want to charge 18650s quickly, easily and conveniently. So the next thing to talk about is the pattern generally of these things, and they all have slightly different patterns and try to achieve different things. Normally when we're talking about how flashlights work in terms of the light that they throw out in front of them, there's kind of 2 aspects that we tend to look at. Well, there's 3. One of them is color temperature, so let's just quickly talk about that. Generally speaking, the warmer colors, or what we call the kind of the niche colors, tend to be much more yellow, and they tend to be better at representing natural light, and therefore when you light stuff up it looks correct in the way that it's easier on the human eye. But generally the niche types of LED won't throw as much brightness as the cooler temperatures. So a lot of these smaller lights tend to use colder temperatures of light because they give more perceived brightness. So you get more for your money. If you tend to get a lot more brightness thrown out of a light. And when you're trying to maximize that on something very small, they tend to use colder colors. Now, the very cheap lights really go for it with the cold colors. And let me just kill my studio light here, just so we can kind of hopefully show you that. So this is on the cheapy one, 110 lumens. This actually on this ring light has a little focus mode ring here, so that you can change that. Very, very cold color. It's quite unpleasant. And when you're looking out into the world at various objects, it's a very harsh light. It's not very nice on the eyes. This is what you tend to get on cheap stuff to give the perception of being very bright. In reality, of course, it's not, and you've got a very cold and very harsh colour. If I was to compare that, for instance, to something even like this more premium EOS, which is more premium and brighter, if we turn this guy on, you'll see we've got a much, because it's so much brighter. Let me turn it down. You can see the actual color temperature is a little bit warmer. Again, can you see the color temperature difference? There is immediately a very different color temperature if you cross one to the other. So this is a much nicer light. Obviously, it's blowing out the camera exposure a bit. I did want to fix the exposure because otherwise it doesn't really give you an idea of how these are working too well. But yeah, much colder color here, and the warmer colors from things like the EOS, even though that is on the colder spectrum of things. You can see the body of this one glowing up already. You tend to find, let's just try this button too. You can see here, again, this is more an example of a more natural color, a much warmer color, whereas again, if I go to this guy, you can see it's just very cold. Now, the other thing you've probably noticed there is the pattern difference. Now, with something like this cheapie, you can see that we have just kind of one uniform projection. There's kind of no difference anywhere in terms of, there's no separation of having a very hot middle and a very soft edge. It kind of just does that one thing. You can focus it down, but it generally just has one pattern. And what you'll have with lights like most more premium lights is you'll have something like this, where you tend to have a more defined hotspot, which will throw the light further out onto whatever it is you want to light up, and then the area out of this is called the spill. And the spill is the bit that will light up everything else around the subject you're trying to light up. So in other words, the area in front of you and to the sides of you. So we call this the spill or the flood. And then this guy is the hot spot in the middle. And most lights will, decent lights will tend to use a combination of those two things. A good example of the extreme and other end of this is if we were to look at something like the GT Mini. Now, let me just turn my studio light back on for a second to show you this. But you'll notice this one has an absolutely colossal head on it, a really deep set LED, and then this smooth big reflector. Now, what this guy is doing is basically focusing all of that light off into the distance. All the energy is being projected off into a very tightly focused hotspot, and very little is being allowed to bleed out to the sides. With these smaller lights, obviously they won't be recessed very far, so that's why you tend to get a much wider beam pattern and a less defined hotspot in the middle. If you take something like the M2R, this really super premium lamp, and then I show you this is something which is designed to do the two things very well, and it does. So you can see we have a good hot spot here, so it will throw the light off into the distance and light up what it is you're looking at, but then you can see a really nice amount of spill that kind of gradually fades out towards the edges. So you get a really nice lit area around where you're looking, but then you get a good projection from this guy. If we switch to this GT Mini now, you'll see the difference of something that really does the extreme other end of the scale. So let me turn this one off and turn on the GT Mini. Now you can see here we've got something very different. So the spill is, you can see just how hot the hotspot is, And this is designed to chuck all the main energy of the light way into the distance. The nickname for this is a thrower, by the way. This is a thrower type of light. And then you can see the spill here is very, well, it is very minimal compared to the amount that's going on down the middle. And you'll see that later in the beam shots. All that power will go down the front. But there is still some usable spill that will light up the area around you. But as you see, as I pull that out, how much that spill is different to just the power of the hotspot. And you can see with something like this little Larry, this is designed very much to just be, there's kind of no hotspot. This is just a work light. This is designed to flood light very close to you and chuck it all around you, but not throw into the distance. So you can see the kind of functionality of something like this. So that gives you a little idea on the difference of the beam profiles. And what we're going to do now is head out and look at all the different modes of these different torches. Hopefully you can just about make out the horizon here. I'm out in the countryside here, very little light pollution. It's nice and late. The moon isn't around, so we've got pretty ideal conditions to test these torches out. There is a little bit of light from behind me from the main road. I'm not too far off of that, but other than that, we're facing out into fields basically. So we're going to have a look at this tiny little key torch O-light and see how that does first. So on its first setting, very low, only a few lumens, not very much. I think it's something like 15 or 20 lumens, but you can see lights up the path in front of me, absolutely no problem at all, and actually does a fairly good job of getting a little bit of distance in front of you, no more than sort of 5 or 6 meters really of usable light, but it's quite floody. Not too much of a hot spot. It's a pretty nice for a little key torch. Now if we twist that a little bit further, we should get high mode, and you can see that's now 150 lumens, and you can just about make out the size of this torch. It's flipping tiny, and look how much light you get for something this small. And you can see we can now see a lot further. You'll have to bear with my phone's autofocus here, it's going to struggle with this lower light, but yeah, this is plenty good enough. Really very good for a keyring torch, exceptionally good. Okay, so now we're going to look at the Rovyron. You can just about see, oh, you can see it quite well in the camera actually, the luminous body of this, because I had it on before I left. It's actually charged the body of this enough so that it does actually have a little bit of glow to it, which is quite cool. Anyway, we double click this one to turn it on to low. Again, nice and low. They're calling this their moonlight mode, but really it's a little bright for what we consider a moonlight mode. You normally want something nearer 1 lumen. This is a little bit higher than that. I'd say that's probably about 3. But yeah, you're not going to see very far, but enough if you're already adjusted to night vision to just let you see a little more in front of you. Single click, and now we go to what they consider their low mode, and you can see it's sort of not too crazy in terms of distance, but again, very very serviceable light, very usable. Let's give it one more click to the high mode, and now we're really chucking some light, and my camera focus is coming to life. So absolutely incredible for something this size. I mean, look at it compared to the size of my hand. It's crazy how small this thing is. And then if we single click from there, we're now in turbo, so it's now gone up again. Obviously the camera is going to adjust focus each time, adjust to the light change, so you may not always get as much perceived brightness as I am, but it really is very good, and I can see a fair distance down the path. So yeah, absolutely brilliant in terms of what it does. 650 lumens for something this tiny, pretty incredible. So yeah, that's that. If we turn that off, of course, we've got those extra modes. You can see that body glowing up pretty nicely now. If I triple click, 1 2 3, we get the lantern mode, and it does chuck, if I come close at the ground, it does chuck a little bit of light. This is really meant for reading in the dark. If you're reading a map or reading a book at home or whatever, in bed, I guess, however you want to use it. That's really great. If you click it again, it pretty much doubles the brightness, and then we've got something that's like a small lantern. Really very good. So that's one of the side light functions. One more, and we get you see also the temperature of the light. It's a nice warm color, which is great for reading, having that nice warm glow instead of a cooler light which you'd use more for brightness and projection. If we click it again, we get the beacon mode, which is really going to wig the camera out, but yeah, there you go. And apparently that will, off a full charge, you'll get 10 hours of that, and you'll be able to see that for miles. So let's turn that off, and then the final mode, if we quadruple click, we get the UV mode, and obviously not much use for it out here in the countryside, but certainly if I wanted to charge my watch loom, for instance, if I face this up and let's see if I can get my watch over it for a second, like so. It should, yep, there you go. You can see it's charged my watch loom quite nicely. So yeah, UV has its uses. Inspecting fake currency, if that's your kind of thing. And yeah, that mode and the high mode on the side light will get you about 3 hours from a full charge. So let's just turn that off. But yeah, you see how much it's glowing up the body now. That glow in the dark stuff's gone crazy. So you won't struggle to find this torch, I can tell you that much. And there's also momentary mode, so if I just hold down the button from off rather than double click, it will just go straight to full brightness. And again, you can see that that's so fantastic for something so small. Expensive, but a very good torch. Okay, next we have the Olight S1 Button 2, which is a very cool, and we definitely call this a premium EDC, certainly in terms of price and build quality, and functionally they're very nice. If we hold the button down, we end up in moonlight mode. Now, I don't even think that's going to come out on the camera until we get really close. There we go. So you get a little bit of that, and this is showing up a little brighter than it really is on the camera. It's it really is just about 1 lumen and enough for map reading and what have you. So yeah, that's that mode. If we stand up, you can see it really is quite dim, doesn't go very far, not more than a few meters in front of my feet. If we hold that down again, that'll take us to low mode. You can see how far we get off. Not too far, probably, so I'd say 5-6 meters ahead. Hold it down again, and we're now into the medium setting. And again, the actual pattern of this, you can see, is it's a nice mix, decent mix of kind of the hotspot area and then this spill out to the sides. It's a pretty nice pattern, so you get a nice amount of flood to light up the area around, and then a good hot spot to light up your subject. Obviously, the further away you go, the more it just turns into a big flood. Okay, next mode. You can see we're now getting up there to sort of the 700 lumen mark. So this is kind of similar to where we were with the Rovyron light. Doing very nicely. You can see it's bigger and chunkier, but it's more substantial, feels certainly more premium in terms of the materials. All working very nicely. Can't see too far in the field, but you can see we've got decent projection in front of you. And then now if I double click this, that is now 1000 lumens, and you can see it's not as marked a jump, but you can see further now into the distance. So we've got a bit more throw into the fields. You can see this is again, for something this small, incredible, really. Very usable light. Good for quad searching. I think the quad searching levels are definitely starting here. I thought it'd be good just to show you the NEBO. So this goes straight on to full power when you turn it on, and you can see there is no hotspot because this is just a bar of light, and that is designed to just flood the area with light that's local to you, which it does a very good job of. So it's really just a work light, but very useful. You could use this for walking as well in the dark. Obviously you won't be able to see too far, but it really lights up the area around you beautifully. You can see the spills literally out to my side, 90 degrees, so loads of spill from this guy. It has a low mode as well, and then it also has a beacon, which is that's actually really useful if you wanted to attach that to, if you broke down, you could use the magnet, stick it on top of the car, and you've got a really strong beacon. So yeah, for the price, brilliant little work like that. Maybe even use it for attaching over a wheel arch while you change a wheel. For something this small, really quite brilliant. Okay, let's move on to the very premium Olight M2 Warrior. This is definitely my most expensive light. So this does a moonlight mode just like the others, right down to, this one does it down at 1 lumen. If we just turn this on now, we should be in, this is our low mode, and you can see there's a really good hotspot in this. So it's really good at throwing that little bit more. You can see even at this low mode we can see further down the path than we could with the others. But then also because of that orange peel reflector, you've got great spill. So it's a really one for all kind of light. So you've got your nice, you can choose your subject that you want to light up, but then there's good flood around it as well. You can see right out to the sides of me, really very good. Let's move up. This is the medium brightness, and again, if I just, you can start to see that throwing really nicely. The moth up there kicking off. A little further down the path still. Let's go one more. Oh, we've gone to strobe. There we go. There's to our high setting, and you can see the beam strength here and how that spot is really working. I think if we scan over here, you can see way deeper into the field. And in fact, there's two beautiful horses hanging out. They were over at the back before, but they've come to say hello, obviously hearing me nattering. But yeah, really very good. And then here we also have turbo, so I'm just going to kill the light and go to turbo and show you that. And yeah, there's turbo, and at this point we can really start to light stuff up. I mean, this, you can see how much more of the field we're lighting. This thing is an absolute monster. Love this torch very much. Works so well. So yeah, that's turbo for you. We can see pretty decently, can pick up everything, good light everywhere, decent flood. Absolutely love this light. Finally, we're on to the GT Mini. Now this is the thrower with the big deep recessed LED, big reflector. This is the one that's designed to chuck light way off into the distance, and if we actually have a quick look at the even on low mode here, you can see just how focused that is compared to where the spill is. Very defined focused spot, and then a little bit of spill out to the sides. It's still very usable spill, but obviously most of the energy is focused off in that dot. And even on this low mode, you can see if I move that up the path, we've actually got light probably like 10 meters away, and this is on its lowest setting. And if we just ramp that up a little bit, and of course this is a smooth ramp, you can see that spot will just continue to go further and further. And then what I'm going to do, I'll turn this off and click the very visible button 5 times. That will put this into momentary mode, so it will go to full power when I just hold the button down and come off when I release. And if I do that, you can see we have an absolute monster of a searchlight here. This is a proper spotlight, and you can see that flood's still very effective close up. But now we can really spot stuff, and you can look, we're lighting up trees a long way away. It really is quite incredible just how powerful this guy is. Long way down the path, all the way to the trees at the back. Fantastic. Okay, and lastly, the EDC 18. You can see that glowing rabbit down there. Very easy to find this one. Nice size. That's down in the moonlight mode with barely a lumen, which is, you know, perfect. You're already night vision adjusted, as I mentioned. I've set this to smooth ramp, so I can't tell you exactly where it is scale wise, but if I just turn it on a bit, you can see I can ramp up to a lowish amount. Again, no like massive hotspot. You can see that it's really more of a floody light, which is absolutely fine. I mean, for something this small, it's not going to have a particularly deep reflector, and it's going to be very floody, and those 3 LEDs packed in close, it's gonna spread out. But you know, it works really well, especially for night walks and for quad hunting. So if we just ramp this up a little bit more, you can see we're starting to pick up again. Decent amount of flood. Doesn't throw too far. Let's go right up to the highest setting on ramped, which is indicated by a quick double flash there. There we go. And again, it still throws pretty far, you know. That's not too bad at all. You can still see a decent way into the field. Looks like our horse friend has gone. Got bored of me talking about torches and light, but yeah, very decent. I think we're about 800 lumens here, so very nice. If I just turn that off for a second, you can probably see there's that very cool blue glow. It won't focus, unfortunately. Am I going to focus? Struggling. But yeah, that blue glow from that gasket that came included, very, very cool. And then if we go to turbo mode, so we're going to turn on, and then we're going to double click, Again, that's adjusted so you can't really perceive how bright that got, but I hope you can see from this shot how far 2800 lumens will go as a flood. I mean, it is literally just insane. Like, in terms of what I can see here, it's just crazy. It just lights up everything. It's so good. And if we spin around to the close stuff, you can see it's just amazing, picking up absolutely everything. And just for a laugh, some of those special modes. This is the lightning mode, which should sort of randomly, let's point it at the ground. It's really quite good at replicating that, I've got to say. It's completely random in brightness and pattern, duration and what have you, but yeah, it's quite good. It's certainly messing with the camera. And then there's candle mode, but I don't think that's going to come out too great on here. You can sort of see the flickering, but yeah, it's playing havoc with the camera, unfortunately. But yeah, there's so many great modes on here. 1, 2, 3. If I double click from there, that double flash that's really upsetting my camera is the bike mode, where it's basically got a flash intermittently, which is great, and you can adjust the brightness of that, obviously. And here's just a quick shot with that diffuser that comes with the EDC 18 on. If we turn that on, you can see this becomes a great little beacon. And in fact, of course, there is a beacon mode as well that you can put this into, and I can't remember off the top of my head what that is. I've remembered most of the modes. Beacon's not. Actually, I think I know where it might be. Hold on. I think it's 1, 2, 3. So that gives us the battery voltage. That is the sunset mode, which will go out over the space of an hour. And I think this one, there we go. Now we're in beacon mode. So yeah, once that's going, that will go for God knows how long. I think we have to measure that in months. But yeah, it's so bright. That will be very easily seen from anywhere. Okay, let's turn that off. And then if we turn this back on now, and then just ramp the light up to maximum, you can see we've got a really easy to see beacon here. And yeah, very floody. Perfect if you want that inside of a tent or inside the house and you want to put that down and just diffuse light to make it super floody locally. Works really well. Of course, if I turn that off, that's now going to glow very bright for ages. So yeah, nice addition that they include that. And just for fun, let's see if we can spot where those horses went using the GT. There's one. One of them's white. I don't know quite how far away he's gone. There he is up the back. Yeah, this really is an insane torch. I have so much fun with this guy. It just projects for so far. And with the naked eye, I can obviously see what it's lighting up further away than the camera can deal with. But you can just see, if you ever wanted that lightsaber effect, this is the torch to do it. It's just insane. Look how hot that hotspot is. It's crazy. But yeah, this would be an absolutely awesome quad finder if you're looking for those glowing bright orange props sticking out of a tree late at night. This would be very useful for that kind of thing. So which one of these would you pick up if you were to grab one? For me, and if I'm recommending this to my quadcopter buddies out there, it probably comes down to two. I absolutely love the EDC 18. It's incredible value for money, and it just has so much functionality, whether that's crazy, ridiculous functionality or very practical functionality. This just does absolutely everything. If you like tons and tons of options, it's brilliant. You want to put it into a very simple mode for simple use, you can do that too. It's just got so much. So that's a really good option. And the other one, even though it's expensive for its given size, and it does take your head a little bit to get around that, this Rovyron A5X is absolutely brilliant, especially for us, because the fact that you can clip it onto the top of the hat and have a 650 lumen head torch, or you can turn the lantern on and have light project down in front of you if you're working or if you're soldering in the field. You can put it in beacon mode, throw it on the floor in front of you, and have a really high visible beacon as to where you are should it start to get dark, or even when you're flying during the day. If you're a little bit lost, this will stand out very easily. So this has so much case use. So yeah, those are probably my two pick favourites. But anyway, thank you for sticking around if you have till the end of the video. Do say hello in the comments, you know, I miss you guys. I haven't been able to catch up with you properly. Let me know you're still out there, you're still watching. And hopefully I'll have some more content for you soon. If you liked this particular direction that we went in, if you're happy for me doing other types of tech, again, please let me know. Stay safe everyone, and I'll see you in the next one.